Canadian men's national team head coach Jesse Marsch has been making the media rounds as we approach a new window with matches against Romania and Wales. And amongst many things that he was discussing with the Footy Prime crew, there was one quote in particular we wanted to discuss. It goes as such: "I find it very disappointing and frustrating the way a lot of Canadian fans treat Cyle Larin." Of course, we're just taking a snippet of that. But Gareth Wheeler, do you agree with Jesse Marsch? Is the criticism that Cyle Larin has received in the past few windows justified?
First off, can I put out a call? Like, if Jesse Marsch is doing the rounds, shouldn't I do a one-on-one? Isn't that what the people want to see? A Wheeler and Marsch one-on-one? I mean, like, let's make this happen. Like, the former manager used to do it all the time. Let's go. Let's do this. Is the criticism fair for Cyle Larin? I would say it doesn't matter. It is what it is. There's criticism of everything online. And that's where the loudest voices are in terms of the criticism for Cyle Larin. So what that tells me is that Jesse Marsch is following along in what's being said in circles online about one of his players, and he doesn't approve. And I think that any manager, would feel that way. I'm just not sure if the manager needs to go public with it. Like, how do you win by coming out and saying that you're frustrated by the fans' criticism of a player? I think it just draws more attention to that issue. Allo, what's going on with the United States right now? The fact that their players have come out and derided the media criticism of their team is just bringing more criticism on them. And, I'm not sure why he felt like he needed to say that. Perhaps, this is just about publicly backing the player, which I'm fine with. He just needs, if you're going to come out and publicly back the player like this, now you need to play him. And now you need to show that you have belief in the player, because that's almost the biggest issue to me, is that Jesse Marsch, speaks with all kinds of praise of Cyle Larin. And look, on this show, I don't think that we've been as hard on Cyle Larin as, the online sentiment would dictate. I still believe in the player, but the numbers are the numbers when it comes to Larin. He scored once in 20 games under Jesse Marsch, and Marsch simply decided not to play him or make him a priority this summer. In the Gold Cup, played him 27 minutes, 1 minute, 28, and 19. Before that in the Shield, it almost seemed like he made him a ceremonial captain for a player who was phasing out, playing 62 minutes in the game in quick succession against Ivory Coast. He played 11 minutes before that. In the Nations League, 2 starts, twice off the bench. And when there's more competition in that position, is Larin still a favorite of Jesse Marsch? I think definitively, based upon how the numbers, what the numbers suggest and how Marsch has been using him, I think he has fallen out of favor. So it's one thing to say, come out and back the player and back the frustration, but, does the manager, I think that his actions will speak louder than his words inevitably.
Yeah, I think that's fair, but I do think Cyle Larin has become a bit of a scapegoat over the past year or so for Canada's failure to do what everyone wants them to do next, right? Which is, for me, is the story around this team going into the next window, going into the entire next year, is that we've had several tournaments now since the World Cup, and Canada still doesn't have that signature win against a really reputable opponent in a competitive match, right? We haven't got over that hurdle when everyone thought that this year would be the year we would do it, whether it was Nations League, whether it was Gold Cup, whether it was both, where they could win that kind of game and potentially win a tournament. They haven't done it yet. And I think as long as that goes on, supporters are naturally going to look at, well, why can't we do that? Why can't we get over that line? And a lot of the time, the problem has been, certainly at Copa America last summer, I would say that there was a little bit of this, but also since then as well, they can't take their chances. They can't score enough goals to put teams away in those crucial matches. And so you automatically look at the front line and you look at Cyle Larin. You're not going to look at Jonathan David because he's performed brilliantly. Tajon Buchanan has been out, so we haven't really been able to assess him until this summer. And now Jacob Schaffelberg's going to get the same thing because he had a disappointing Gold Cup and it ended really badly for him. And now people are going to be looking to replace Jacob Schaffelberg in the starting lineup as well. So that's just a natural thing. I don't think it's necessarily a fair reflection on Cyle Larin as a player and what he still has to offer that people are kind of writing him off as a potential World Cup starter for Canada. But I think it is a natural consequence of the results, which have been still falling short for Canada in the kind of games that they're going to need to win if they want to have a successful World Cup next summer.
Right. But again, the criticism is going to be there. There's criticism of a lot of different players for a lot of different reasons, and the manager as well. It's just interesting that the manager decided, when asked about Cyle Larin, decided to take that route in defending him. Like, there's different ways of looking at it. You can say, yeah, this is great that the manager is supporting his player, but now I think it puts more focus on the manager and how he uses this player. If that criticism is invalid or it's wrong or he deems it not to be right, then the manager needs to come out and support the player to show evidence of that. And that's where things have slipped, Ollie. And I remember us having this conversation when Marsch took over, which player might not necessarily suit the way that Marsch wants to play. And Cyle Larin was the first on the list. And that was at the time where he was still Canada's top goal scorer. It's about style of play. And Tani Oluwaseyi, his speed, his physical presence, what he brings to the table seems to be more suited towards the way that Marsch wants to play. I don't know if that's a disputable fact or not. I don't think it is.
Yeah. Well, certainly based on his actions so far, but he made some interesting comments in general in that interview about how he kind of felt like he hadn't handled the strikers in the best way this summer in terms of how he split up the minutes, I think, and handled, the competition that he had there. He said that he was probably going to play, if they made the semi-final, Daniel Jebison from the start alongside Jonathan David, which would have been a pretty shocking call as far as I'm concerned if we had got to that point, obviously. So it's an interesting one. Like, I think a lot of supporters obviously see what Promise David is doing in Belgium and lean towards him. Marsch seems to like Jebison. He seems to like Oluwaseyi. And then Cyle Larin is still there as, a player who is arguably playing at the highest level for his club of all of them.
Well, but he's not playing right now.
You're right.
Which will probably lead into the next question.
Gareth, it's as if you were reading my mind, because as you well know, at the time of this recording, we're inside 30 hours before the transfer window closes, and he still needs a move, Cyle Larin, out of Mallorca. How important is it, Ollie, that this gets done for the player out of Mallorca, take a fresh start, and push for some more minutes under Jesse Marsch?
Yeah, obviously crucial. His time at Mallorca seems to be done. He's not been involved in the start to their season. It didn't seem to be the right fit last season in terms of the style of play and getting the best out of Cyle Larin as a player. Doesn't seem like he really enjoyed playing in that kind of style and system either. So I would love to see him stay in La Liga, a club that's a bit more favorable in terms of the way they play to create a few more chances and give him a few more opportunities. He's still, when you look at his record in La Liga, like, it's not bad. It's not, blow your socks off necessarily, but he's still finding ways to get a decent number of goals at a very, very high level. It's a very good league. So I think that league has served him quite well overall, with last season obviously being a bit of a downturn. And I'd hope there's some suitors that might give him another opportunity there.
Yeah. I don't think La Liga is that good. The fact that Mallorca could finish top of the table, like, it's so top heavy. It's going to be Barcelona, Real Madrid, then, Atletico Madrid's playing for third, and then, Bilbao, a couple other sides. After that,
they do consistently well in Europe, like the 6 to 8 type teams.
I am not knocking Larin in that. I'm more knocking Mallorca, the fact that could be a top half the table team, the way that they played. Like, they were abject. And I don't blame Larin for wanting to leave. We should just clarify, the transfer window for Major League Soccer closes on Thursday. So if he's going to make a move overseas, if not, he has till the end of the month. If he wants to go play in Turkey, he's got another couple weeks. So there's still time for him to make that move. I was interested in the fact that Marsch seems very involved in this move, as he is for a number of different players. National team managers always have their say, but the fact that he's speaking to different managers that may be interested, almost trying to sell the player, is an interesting one, because this is a critical move. If Larin wants to play, even look to the September window. If he's not playing any football right now in the buildup over the next 2 weeks, Is he really going to play that much in this upcoming window? How much will he physically be able to play? So this is a complicated one. He not only has to change club, which can come with different fortunes depending on where he goes. What team needs a Cyle Larin, and will he go to a club that's willing and able to play some more attacking football that would suit him? So big questions to be answered. And I just think it goes back to Marsch's statement. None of this comes with any assurance that he's going to have an expanded or a bigger role over the short or long term for this national team. There's so much up in the air when it comes to Cyle Larin right now. So let's see how it all plays out. But yeah, I think we'll all move forward with great interest, especially considering the comments that were made by Jesse Marsch.
All right, don't forget we are going to have a special episode of Match Night this week where we look at the state of the squad of the Canadian men's national team. Every day we'll be posting a new question about a position, but we do need your help. Head over to OneSoccer socials to cast your vote every single day. We'll post the results and react to audience comments live on Friday night's episode of Match Night.